What's up, everybody? So in today's video, we have a classic case of disloyalty, betrayal, and stupidity. Now, people tend to underestimate other people's ability for retaliation. As we will see in this video, the underestimation is real. If it were me, I would never go out of my way to provoke the person who I just screwed over royally in the worst way. That's where the stupidity comes in. Because what we're gonna see today, in my opinion, one of the most reasonable crash outs, as the kids would say, that I've seen in a very long time. I wanna start by saying I don't condone this type of reaction. With that being said, I ain't even mad at the guy. I can imagine a lot of people would probably want to do the same. With that out of the way, let's get right into the video.
You really want this on video?
I'll pull it. I'm mad enough to pull it.
An all-female jury decides a man's fate after video of him fatally shooting his wife is played in court. Carey Birmingham's attorneys are here to talk about the Texas father's defense strategy and the end result. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
That's a big boy. That is a big boy. If I saw him running out with the shotgun, I would be turned all the way the hell around running, because he don't even need the shotgun. He could have just, I don't know, sat on her or something.
A 60-year-old man is going to prison after he shot his wife in the head outside their home in Spring, Texas. Carey Birmingham was seen on video talking to his wife, Patricia Birmingham, who went by the name Richie.
You really want this on video?
I'll pull it. I'm mad enough to pull it. Okay. All right, goodbye, Reese.
The harrowing video, which also shows Birmingham saying, "You're going to meet Jesus, and I hope it was worth it, and I'm done, I'm effing done," was shown to an all-female jury last week.
All-female jury. Do you think this guy, Cartman on weight gain 3,000, I don't think his peers are women. I'm just saying. They say a jury of your peers. They set this guy up.
According to Birmingham's defense team, the couple had been arguing after Birmingham reportedly discovered his wife was having an affair. The argument spilled out into the driveway, with Birmingham standing in his bathrobe and cocking a gun. The jury ended up sentencing Birmingham to 10 years in prison. He's going to be up for parole in 5 years.
Yo, 10 years in prison? All-female jury. And this man blasted his ex-wife in the face with the shotgun. To be honest, that's pretty shocking. There might have been actually some reasonable people on that jury that was like, you know what? Yeah. An affair in a marriage? Blast on, Blaster Master.
Years. We have a lot of questions about this, so I'm joined right now by Mr. Birmingham's defense attorneys, Anthony Oso and Dan Cogdell. Great to have you both here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
So the first thing I wanted to ask is how this works. There was a decision for Birmingham to plead guilty to murder, but walk us through what the strategy was, and once you make that decision, what happened next?
Sure. So the way it works in Texas, Jesse, is that it is a two-tiered jury trial system. The first tier is going to be guilt innocence, and the second tier is going to be the punishment phase of trial. The unique thing about Texas is that a jury can decide both phases of a trial. They can determine both guilt, innocence, and then punishment. So here, as if you've seen the video, it's obviously very overwhelming evidence. And so our strategy was to plead guilty directly to the jury and then have the jury assess punishment in this case. And one of the defenses, or the way that the law works in Texas, is that it allows for a reduction in punishment if the jury finds that the crime was committed out of sudden passion.
There we go. Crimes of passion. This is something that sometimes can be, actually every time can be avoided. I don't even want to get into it. Let's keep watching.
due to adequate cause. And so we felt that based on the circumstances and facts in this case that surrounded Carey Birmingham's actions that day, that was the best way to argue on behalf of our client.
And Dan, walk us through what the theory was about what happened. He immediately confronted his wife. He just found out what had happened, because I think that timing is important.
Yeah, so he had heard from a mutual friend of theirs who had come into town to visit with him that weekend that his wife had been unfaithful, that she had been in an affair, in a relationship with a fella out of the country, and he didn't confront. I
don't understand these situations where women will cheat on a guy and make it the most difficult way of cheating. Like, at that point, really just get a damn divorce and move out of the country. I can't wrap my head around it.
Sunday. He didn't confront his wife until the following morning. And once she confirmed, in essence, that she had had this relationship, that's when he, was fully informed and sort of flew off the handle, for lack of a better description.
Now, you had an all-female jury, which is a rarity in itself, but an all-female jury come back and not even recommend, because in Texas, it's their decision, sentence him to 10 years in prison. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I thought that was the appropriate result. Again, as Anthony explained, it is the defense burden at a punishment hearing to show by a preponderance of the evidence that the conduct happened as a result of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause. And we believe that the evidence was pretty clear that is why what happened. I mean,
look, he's straight up, this guy's a freaking henchman. He is straight up henchman maxing right here. He got the little fedora, the giant cigar, the nice suit that actually fits him pretty nicely. And you are gonna go and cheat on a guy who can pull off the henchman look, and you know he owns guns? Female logic, ladies and gentlemen, which, in other words, is none. No logic.
Focus was on why and not what. And once the jury heard the facts, not only from several of the arresting officers, they heard an audio tape that Reese had secretly recorded where this is a husband and wife saying the worst possible things about each other. I mean, just you name it, they said it. She attacked his ability to perform sexually. She attacked his ability to provide financially, which are the two best ways to upset any man I know.
Yep.
And
you never talk shit about a man and his dick and a man and his money. She was just stacking it up, just fucking getting deep into this dude's head, and that's insidious. These people are just insidious, and they will attack every single just weakness that you got just to feel some type of way, and it's just disgusting. And it results in situations like this.
Unfortunately, this argument that was recorded on audio tape by Reese served as the foundation for the argument that it was sudden passion arising from an adequate cause. So that's a long way of saying, look, I thought the evidence was clear. I thought that was the right result for the jury to find sudden passion. And I wasn't really surprised by the verdict. The state certainly was. There were others in the courtroom that were. But after my argument, I felt very strongly that the jury was going to do what I believed to be the right thing, and they did.
And Anthony, that's my question. What is your response to the people who say he killed his wife, he took a life, he could be out in 5 years? Is that justice? Is that fair? What would be your response to those people?
My response is yes, that is totally fair. This man is not a threat to society. This was between him and some evil witch woman who, quite frankly, I don't think should have been sticking around. She was all up in his face on camera, provoking him, like I said in the intro. You never provoke a man in this situation while he's on camera, as she's underestimating him, as he's cocking the fucking shotgun. Yeah, no. Sorry, she had it coming.
Well, my response would be that the law provides in the state of Texas that if the evidence establishes that a crime was committed out of sudden passion, it reduces the punishment range from 5 years to life in prison to a second degree. And so the maximum punishment that Carey Birmingham was facing once the jury found he'd acted in sudden passion was 20 years. And so under the law, it's the appropriate verdict by the jury. And it's exactly what Dan asked them to do. He said, look, if you feel that he needs to be penalized, then give him 10 years. And that's what they did. So we feel that they followed the law, they applied the facts to the law, and they came to the right result.
And how's your client, Mr. Birmingham, feeling about this?
I mean, look, he knew the reality of the situation going into it. He's the only client I've ever had in 42 years where I told him, look, you're going to prison. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. You might go for 2 years, which is the minimum under the sudden passion scheme, or up to life or 99 under murder. I said, you're going to prison. So you best acknowledge that. When we started the trial, honestly, I thought best case was in the 20-year-ish range. But once I saw the evidence as it unfolded in front of the jury, I felt very good that they would give him less than 20 years. Look, this was a tragedy that we certainly recognized. It's also a tragedy that can't be undone. All that having been said, Mr. Birmingham's father was murdered many years ago in a very, very high-profile case here in Texas back in the 70s. His son had committed suicide while he was awaiting trial in this case. There's a lot of psychological...
While he was... So this man had already lost his dad, and during this trial, his son kills himself. And this woman knew that he had lost people. He had lost his father, and yet decides to destroy their marriage and give him just another loss. So in reality, this man has lost 3 of the most important people. One of them, he, took out the trash on that, but still, tragic.
And harrowing things that happened to him and his family that are just tragic. All that having been said, he doesn't have any criminal record. He has no acts of violence. There were no prior altercations between he and his wife. And because of all those things that the jury was able to take into consideration, I don't apologize for this verdict at all. I think it was the right one. It was a courageous jury that did the right thing. But I absolutely think that it was the right verdict.
And Anthony, that brings me to something else that you mentioned, the family, because I'd like to talk to you about Olivia. This is Carey and Patricia's daughter. My understanding was she was at school when the shooting happened. She reportedly said that while she never observed her father physically attacking her mother, she did accuse him of emotional and financial abuse. She questioned the defense. Quote, she said, I don't know, sudden passion, you have to have something, you have to have made that decision within you for a while. I feel like to do something, to do that to someone you really love, no matter what was said in this trial, you know what type of woman she was, and you know what you did, and how he took away my favorite person in this world.
Okay, sympathy to the daughter, but you know what type of woman she was. She was stupid. All she had to do was ask for a divorce.
I lost both of my parents that day. My dad died that day too, because the person who did that to my mom and my father aren't the same person. What's your reaction to that?
So I think in that answer lies the sudden passion defense. There's no way to get around the fact that Olivia is going to hate her father, and rightfully so. But in that statement, she states that the man on December 6th that killed my mother is not the man that I knew growing up. And that's what we argued the entirety of this case. Is that
dang, so they used lawyers too? They're so fucking slimy and grimy in their tactics. So they took the daughter's words and they're like, oh, so he wasn't a bad guy always, but all of a sudden he was. Therefore, we can say without a doubt, hey, this was a crime of passion. He wasn't like this before. He had no criminal record. The daughter even said, hey, daddy wasn't that much of a baddie. fucking slimy, man.
The actions that Carey Birmingham took that day are not who he was. And the only reason he acted that way is because he was responding to what we believed was adequate cause. So there was nothing in evidence to establish that this was premeditated. They had done a cell phone extraction on Reese Birmingham's phone. There was no evidence that she had been complaining about any form of emotional or physical abuse. Nobody had ever seen him be physically abusive with her before.
It's always that, right? Like, no matter what, even when the woman cheats, she's still the victim, right? Like, women will cheat, but then they'll turn around and be like, well, he was abusive. He was emotionally abusive, and he was a narcissist, and he was controlling. I had no other way around it. You know, she's crying, right? She's the one who's crying, even though she cheated. Like, you see this time and time and time again. And it's just that like, you know, it's always so easy just to blame a man for being abusive and being a narcissist and whatever. Meanwhile, like we heard from the daughter, he was a great dude. And if she actually survived this, again, I don't think she would have said any of that. And, you know, she would have been crying because she cheated. Remember, women who cheat are the victims. Yeah, right.
And there had never been any prior police reports to the home. There's just no evidence in place in this case to show that there was prior violence. You know, I think I want to say it's contested whether she was financially abused. I mean, I just don't see the evidence.
Okay,
there.
one more thing.
She had
financially abused. Again, hyperbole, man. In these situations with divorce and things of that sort, the woman, again, will always say abuse. And financial abuse, you got to read between the lines. You know what that means? He had money that he didn't want to give her because he probably knew that she wouldn't spend it correctly. If he's the provider, he gets to keep the money. He has access to his money. So miss me with that financial abuse bullshit.
Job, she had access to funds, and she was allowed to travel in and out of Houston at her leisure.
Had her own
with
job.
The daughter Olivia. And another thing that I think the jurors took into consideration is that Olivia and Patricia were planning to leave together, and so that's also a daughter that's going to be stripped from her father. And so I think a lot of what was said through Olivia's interviews has a lot to do with her feelings that have built up since her mother's passing. But I don't think it is indicative of what was going on leading up to Patricia Birmingham's murder.
Gentlemen, before I let you go, one last quick question. Do you think your client's going to get out in 5 years?
No. He's eligible for to be considered for parole after he serves half the sentence, but the parole scheme in Texas, particularly in a crime that involves violence, much less death, he's not going to make parole in 5 years. That's not going to happen. My guess is he's going to serve the majority of that 10-year sentence simply because it is highly unlikely in Texas that you make first parole on anything. It's extremely unlikely that you make first parole on a murder case. It just doesn't happen.
Anthony Osso, Dan Cogdell, thank you both so much for coming on. Appreciate you explaining the particularities of the case. Thank you. Amazing.
Here's why I wanted to react to this, because I have a very strong opinion on everything. If you've ever watched anything I've ever done, I truly believe that cheating in a marriage should be punishable with jail time. The reason I say this is because we have situations like this where somebody cheats and they get killed in these crimes of passion. And crimes of passion usually happen because somebody is cheating. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you cheat, you should go to prison for as long as you were married. We can stop all of this cheating garbage in marriage if people understand, hey, I made a contract with the government to be with this person, and if I break it, by infidelity, there's consequences. The problem here in the US is no-fault divorce. People just get divorced for whatever reason. They just woke up one day and just weren't feeling it. We've totally watered down the institution of marriage to where it means nothing. It's just your average relationship now. You can just leave anytime you want because, oh my God, you know, I want to go live my life. It's mostly women that are ending these marriages. 80% of marriages are ended by women, and marriages only have a 50-50 chance of either ending or continuing. If people understand that there are consequences to infidelity, I think people will be a little bit more choosy with either who they marry, or they will be more thoughtful in how they deal with conflict resolution in a marriage. We have to take back the institution of marriage and put it back in God's hands. If you have a tendency to be a cheater, if you have a tendency to get bored of somebody and you just want to run from them, don't get married. I don't think most people should get married. There's your moral of the story. Be careful. You just might get caught up in a crime of passion. Sayonara.